Venetian-style glass blowing can appear very complicated, but the processes can be reduced to 5 basic phases. And the first is always getting the glass on the blowpipe and preparing it for full inflation. This usually begins with gathering and often proceeds to marvering, rolling the glass back and forth on a cold metal surface. Air is blown into the blowpipe and a bubble emerges. It's important to keep the tip of the bubble thick. So usually the tip of the bubble is left thick and rolled back and forth on the marver a little more. Phase 2, fully inflating the glass and creating a constriction or neck. The glass is inflated more, and the 2-bladed tool called the jacks is used to begin a constriction near the blowpipe. Venetian glass is typically very thin and it must be reheated frequently. Blowing continues, the bubble grows, becomes perfectly spherical, and the neck or constriction is made narrow. Later in the process, the glass will be broken there. Phase 3, shaping the bubble. It begins here with holding the blowpipe downward in the furnace, then spinning the blowpipe so that gravity and centripetal force transform the bubble into a longer shape. The shaping continues with blowing and tooling, here flattening the bottom and making a kick in the base. This particular vessel will have a decorative edge wrap at the bottom. The next phase, 4, is transferring the glass from the blowpipe to the punty. The punty is a handle. It's a metal rod with a little soft glass at one end. After it's attached to the base, the neck or constriction is broken. Opening the vessel always begins with a reheat. The glass has to be softened so that the rim can be formed. This is done with a combination of using the jacks and the soffietta or puffer. The vessel is given its final profile. Often in practice, phases 2 and 3 are combined. I call this the blow-yank-blow process because after blowing the bubble, it's yanked longer by holding it with a tool. Blowing continues to further inflate the glass. There are many options within these 5 phases. As we saw, phase 1 usually begins with gathering a single gather. Sometimes the glass at working temperature is much runnier than normal. This is chalcedony glass, and the silver additives which color the glass make the glass much runnier. Therefore, to get enough glass for the object, 2 gathers are required. Sometimes phase 1 doesn't involve gathering at all. Here an object is being prepared by rolling up canes. They're attached to the blowpipe, straightened, and after reheating and marvering, the end is closed and glass blowing can continue. Here we are proceeding on to phase 2, inflating the glass further and making a constriction or neck. By far, the most complicated phase 1 setup is that for reticello or net glass. Here a cup is made, comprised entirely of canes. The process is repeated and a bubble with canes twisted the opposite direction is lowered into the cup. It's inflated, the 2 stick together, And after reheating and marvering, glass blowing can continue. Here we are in phase 2, inflating the glass and creating the constriction. Many decorative options are available in phase 1. This will be dip molding or optic molding. A bubble is blown thickly, tapered, and lowered into a dip mold or optic mold. The glass is blown hard, and variations in wall thickness are created from the mold. During phase 2, you can see the optical effect created by the thicker and thinner zones of the glass. This was a popular decoration in 17th and 18th century Venetian glass. Here the dip mold will be used to create a much more complicated decoration, that of mezzaforma or mezzastampura. A thick bubble has had glass gathered on its tip and lowered or pushed into a 12-rib optic mold. This creates ribbing just at the bottom of the vessel. In this instance, the ribs are twisted for a spiral pattern. During phase 2, the twist is tightened, the bubble is blown larger, and the neck or constriction is begun. Color can be added at this stage. Here, an opaque white gather of glass is rolled in frit of various colored glasses. The glass is reheated and marvered, and as it's marvered, it's held in place to begin twisting the white glass. The end is held, the twist is made tighter, and after reheating, phase 1 continues with this twisting pattern made with the pincers. After reheating and marvering, we move on to phase 2. The bubble is blown larger, the end is flattened a bit, and the neck is begun. There are many options within phase 3, shaping the bubble. Thus far, we've mostly seen tall, narrow objects. For bowls and plates, for example, the sphere must be transformed in shape to that of an oblate spheroid. Here the sphere is made wider and shorter, and the bottom is flattened. This is the preparation for a platter. The bubble can be shaped virtually instantaneously by lowering it into a full-size blow mold. This is how lion mask stems, popular in the 16th century, were made. Countless options are available to the glass blower later in phase 3. The maurice is a disc of solid glass used to join the parts of a goblet. The avolio is another popular decorative feature. Here an avolio is added to a small bubble that's been decorated with straight optic ribbing. The avolio begins with a maurice, more glass is added to the end, and after reheating, it's tooled to produce the characteristic spool-like shape. Here are a few hollow options. This is a rather thin, small bubble added to the tip of the bowl of a goblet. This will become a knop a decorative ball between the foot and the cup of the goblet. Here's another bubble, and this will become the foot. In order to make a hole in the end, a constriction is made, the excess glass tapped off. This foot has a folded edge. Another hollow element, perhaps the most popular of all in Venetian glass, is the hollow stem. Its characteristic teardrop shape comes from the effect of gravity on the bubble as it's lowered in place. Venetian goblets of the Renaissance are often made by stacking up multiple bubbles. Moving on now to phase 5. Again, there are many variations available. This is going to be a straight opening. The vessel will be conical. The combination of using the jacks and using the soffietta allows the thin glass to be kept completely in control at all times. A very popular shape in 16th and 17th century Venetian wine glasses is the exponential curve. This is very often seen at both the foot and the top of a wine glass. The soffietta and jacks are used to prepare for the final opening. And the final opening is achieved with just gravity and centripetal force. A somewhat unusual opening is the handkerchief or fazzoletto opening. This is done at the very end of the process by spinning the glass and suddenly stopping and holding it down. The edge folds into the characteristic handkerchief shape. Some glasses have an asymmetrical opening. This one will be oval. Particularly in 17th century Venetian glass, we often see octagonal or hexagonal openings. This is achieved with a fin mold. A little less commonly, we have the crimp mold used to produce shapes like the quatrefoil opening. After phase 5, the vessel is essentially complete, but this doesn't mean work stops. There are many options available to the glassblower. Here, wings are made. These are common in 17th century Venetian glass. Throughout the process, the entire object must stay well above 1,000 degrees Fahrenheit or it will begin to crack. Hollow options are also possible after phase 5. Here a decorative ball of aquamarine glass is lowered into the center of a goblet. It's purely decorative. This is another hollow addition. It's a bubble that's been blown in the dip mold, and after reheating, it's manipulated to become a handle